So let's ask a simple question. Why do horoscopes feel so incredibly real? Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on the fascinating psychology that makes those birth month personality traits seem so spot on. You know the feeling, right? You're scrolling, you stumble upon your horoscope, and as you read it, you just find yourself nodding along, thinking, wow, this is me. It feels like it was written just for you. But is that destiny? Or is there something else going on in our brains? Yeah, and of course we do that. We zoom in on the good stuff, the positive traits like hardworking or a natural leader, because that's how we want to see ourselves. And any of the negative bits that don't quite fit, well, we tend to just conveniently gloss over those. It's a little psychological trick we plan ourselves, and we're about to dive into it. All right, so let's get into the good stuff. That powerful feeling of recognition you get from a horoscope, it's not cosmic magic, it's pure psychology. We're going to break down the two main effects that make these things so persuasive. So the first big one is called the Barnum Effect. And yeah, it's named after that famous showman, P.T. Barnum. This is really the secret sauce. Horoscope descriptions are written to be incredibly broad and vague. Things like, you have a deep need for other people to like and admire you. I mean, who doesn't feel that way? It's a one-size-fits-all statement, but our brain grabs it and tailors it to feel like it was custom-made just for us. So how do we even know this is a thing? Well, a psychologist named Bertram Forer ran this classic experiment. He gave his students a personality test, but then, and this is the kicker, he completely ignored their answers. Instead, he handed every single student the exact same generic analysis that he literally just pulled from a newsstand astrology column. And the results? I mean, they were just staggering. Over 70% of the students said that this generic cookie-cutter description was a very accurate picture of their unique personality. It's just a powerful demonstration of how our brains are wired to find personal meaning in almost anything. Okay, so the other big piece of this psychological puzzle is something called the Pygmalion Effect. You can basically just think of it as a self-fulfilling prophecy. If your horoscope is constantly telling you you're a courageous Aries, you might, without even realizing it, start taking a few more risks or maybe speaking up a little more often. You start living up to the label. And listen, this isn't just some abstract theory. There's this incredible real-world example of a student who is really struggling, known for being lazy, but his performance completely turned around when a new teacher who didn't know his history just treated him like he was brilliant. And guess what? The student rose to meet that expectation. It's the same thing with horoscopes. When we're told we have certain traits, we can start to actually become them. All right, now here's where things get really interesting. A little bit of a twist for you. We tend to think of personality horoscopes as this ancient wisdom, right? Something passed down through the millennia. But the truth is, they're actually a surprisingly recent invention. Just take a look at this timeline. For thousands of years, astrology had nothing to do with you or me as individuals. It was used to predict huge, impersonal events, like the outcome of a war or the best time to plant crops. The whole idea of linking the stars to your individual personality, that didn't even show up until the 1930s. It was literally invented for a newspaper column purely for entertainment. So when you put them side by side, the difference is just night and day. Ancient astrology was about the fate of entire nations. Modern horoscopes are about your personal quirks. They have completely different origins and completely different goals. So if horoscopes just started as a bit of fun, then what's the big deal? Where's the harm in it? Well, the problem really starts when we cross that line from casual entertainment to making serious life decisions based on them. Look, reading your horoscope for a laugh over coffee, that's totally harmless. But using it to decide who you should date or who to hire for a critical job or how to invest your life savings, that's when a fun little pastime can lead to some really bad decisions. And that brings us to one of the biggest dangers, using it as an excuse. It's so tempting to blame your star sign for your own behavior. Oh, I can't help being so stubborn, I'm a Taurus. It lets us off the hook from actually doing the hard work of self-improvement. Okay, so if it's not our star sign, then what actually makes you you? Well, science gives us a much deeper and honestly a way more fascinating story about who we are. It turns out you're a recipe, a really complex one. First, you've got your genetics, which is kind of like the basic blueprint you inherit. Then you have your environment, your family, your culture, all your life experiences. And then there's this incredible third piece that bridges the two, epigenetics. Epigenetics. Sounds complicated, but think of it like a set of dimmer switches on top of your DNA. Your actual genes don't change, but your life experiences. Things like your diet, your stress levels, even what your mother ate while she was pregnant can turn those gene switches up or down. These changes can literally shape how your genetic code is expressed for the rest of your life. So when you think about it, your personality isn't written in the stars. It's forged by these incredibly powerful real-world forces. The DNA from your ancestors, the food you ate as a kid, the society you live in, that's the stuff that really carves out who you become. Okay, I've got one last fantastic real-world example of these hidden forces at play. Researchers noticed this really strange pattern. A surprisingly high number of elite football players are born in the fall. So why? Is it because they're all Virgos and Libras? Nope, not even close. The answer is something way more practical and, well, kind of boring: the school enrollment cutoff date. Seriously, think about it. A kid born in September is probably going to be one of the oldest and therefore one of the biggest and most coordinated kids in his kindergarten class. So he gets picked for the team first, the coach gives him a little more attention, and his confidence grows. That tiny initial advantage just snowballs year after year until it becomes a massive one. And that is really the heart of it all. Our lives aren't written by the month we were born. They're shaped by this incredible, messy, beautiful mix of our biology, our environment, and all these hidden variables we never even think about, like a school cutoff date. So, I'll leave you with this to chew on. If your birth month doesn't define who you are, what other hidden factors, what invisible advantages or disadvantages might be subtly shaping your life right now? The real story of you is so much more complex and so much more interesting than any horoscope could ever capture.